and welcome to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm Becky Mark, and I'm filling in for Matt DeLong today. He's out sick, unfortunately. And thank you for joining us, and we're going to be discussing the Kentucky Wesleyan game, which occurred Thursday evening. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Hello, I'm Arnie Ball.
And I'm Tim Hefner.
Watch us every Friday evening at 7 p.m. for IPFW Volleyball Highlights.
We'll also describe strategies and fundamentals for all you new volleyball fans.
We may even invite a volleyball or two to join us on the show, so tune in to us every Friday night at 7 p.m. here on Channel 6.
Check it out! The campus has it all. Learn it, or work it, or play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now! Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Hi, welcome back to the show. Again, I'm Becky Mark, filling in for Matt DeLong, and we're here with the coach, IPFW's women's basketball, and we're talking about the game which happened Thursday evening against Kentucky Wesleyan. And so, could you tell us a little bit more about the game, what happened at the end, and the final outcome?
Well, we started off really good against Kentucky Wesleyan, and defensively we were really tough, and we actually had 4 30-second calls against Kentucky Wesleyan. So our defense in the first half was really good. We held them to 25 points, and however, for us, we didn't, I guess, push the ball as much as we usually do. And we sort of struggled a little bit in the second half because they had altered the offense that they used, and so we had difficulty matching up to some of the defensive assignments and things that we needed to use to be able to handle their offense. So we had a little. It was a good game for us in the fact that we won, and we've got some positive things out of it first half. Yet we still struggled in a few areas.
I see here that you had 5 players score double figures. So, as a coach, you must have been awful proud. And how did you feel about that?
Well, for our kids, some of the kids that we had scoring double figures. We had on and off nights for some kids during the season, but it's nice to see that our starters are all contributing and that we're very balanced. However, the fact that our bench didn't give us much was a little, I guess, to be desired. We didn't get much out of the rebounding from some of the kids coming off the bench, and we didn't get some of the defensive things that we needed to. So that sort of caused us some problems down the road as the game went on. But a player like Lindy Jones, who was 5 for 11, she scored 8 for 9 from the line, didn't make any threes this game, hit 5 rebounds, finished with 18. It was a real good night for Lindy. She led us. The next 2 people that we had were Leah Sheets and Tara Mazzulla. Both had 14 points. Jenny Newhart had 9 rebounds, 11 points. And Wendy Recker had 10 points and 7 assists. And she's just done a really great job for us. In fact, she's ranked nationally with assists for our team. So it's really nice to see our kids getting some of the individual accomplishments.
Mm-hmm. So even though you're coming off a big win, your primary focus is again from the bench, and that's what you want to focus on, is just getting a little more accomplishment from the bench?
Yeah, I think we need to be able to go 8 and hopefully into next year 9 people, or 9, 10 people coming off the bench and be able to give us what we need as far as depth, so that we can really push the ball and we can add a pressing game along with that down the road with the rest of this season and going into next season. What we're trying to do is really build a good, strong foundation for next year, so that we can, be in University of Southern Indiana's spot, being #1 in the conference and being ranked nationally. So that's what we're trying to work towards, but we need to build our bench and the strength of our bench so that when we make substitutions, we can continue at the level that we're at and not go downward and then we sub starters back in and go back up. We need to not be on the roller coaster and have a real smooth ride from 1 through 8, hopefully 10 as we go through next year.
And so the future looks pretty bright for IPFW's women's basketball team, wouldn't you say?
Well, I think down the road, we don't have any seniors, and we're hoping to bring in some kids. For us right now, though, we don't have the money to do that because we don't have any seniors. So, we're going to have to try to supplement kids with some financial aid packages and some academic scholarship kinds of things to try to bring in a couple kids. To help add to that. So yeah, I think the future is great for IPFW. Whether it happens next year or the following year is going to be a real, big question, and that's going to basically be based on the recruiting for the season.
Okay, and back to the Kentucky Wesleyan game, who was the high scorer for your team?
Lindy Jones was a high scorer. Again, she was 5 for 11. She didn't get very many threes off in this game. Which is a little unusual for Lindy. But she did contribute a lot from the line. She was 8 for 9, and she ended up with 18 points. She had 4 assists. So Lindy had a pretty good line for Thursday's game.
What position does Lindy play, and is she a junior, sophomore?
Lindy's a junior, and she plays a 2-3, which is a guard or swing kind of player. So she's able to do a lot of things by driving and she has the outside shot, so it really makes it tough for someone to guard Lindy, mainly because she can do a lot of different things.
But it sounds like she's going to be a great leader for next year's team.
She sure is. So hopefully we can get to a couple clips and give you, the viewers, a good insight into what the game was about and some of the real good things that we did.
Okay.
So, let's see.
And we have a clip showing right now.
This is Tara Missoula. She's down here in the low. She's in the key right now. And she's fronting in the post. And Tara did a great job against Kentucky Wesleyan. And we luck out getting a turnover there. Wendy goes for the interception. Jenny goes for the easy bucket as we run down on our break. And that's something that's a real strength for us, and we try to use our defense to try and build into our offense, into our fast break. So that's a real good example of Tara cutting off the pass to the inside and Wendy coming up with a steal and going from there.
We have time for one more quick clip, so why don't you help explain how the defense performed on the game?
Well, the defense in the Kentucky Wesleyan game was real good, especially in the first half, and I think the clip coming up is going to show that. We were able to just slow them down a lot and take all the time off the clock on this play here, and we really caused them some problems in the first half because we were just all over them. They couldn't run their offense. They couldn't get the ball into the low post, and Tara and Jen did a great job fronting here. Tara's fronting down low, causing some problems for their low post there. And it's just another good example of our defense in the first half of the game. So, I'm really pleased where our kids are going with the defensive end of it. And, hopefully continue to improve on the defense and really make that one of our strengths for next year.
Okay. Well, in concluding this segment, it sounds like the team had a great game. You must be very proud of them.
Oh, yeah.
And coming back now, we're going to have more highlights for the Wesley, Kentucky game, and we're also going to be discussing the USI game. Thank you, and we'll be right back after these messages.
The college basketball season is underway for 1994-95, and the Great Lakes Valley Conference has been rated by some as the toughest of the NCAA Division II conferences. Join Coach Andy Piazza and me, Matt DeLong, to get a closer look at the IPFW team and this year's competition.
and welcome back. Again, I'm Becky Mark, filling in for the under the weather Matt DeLong. We're here discussing the Saturday game against USI. The score was 104-94 with IPFW coming out on top. With this being the biggest win for IPFW, why don't you go ahead and explain to the audience why this was such a big accomplishment?
Well, first of all, USI is #1 in the conference, let alone #3 in the country at this time. And so for us, it was a really good win. It probably will hurt them down the road if they lose any more games. But I think it says a lot for our kids that they were able to step up and do what was needed of them and answer the call.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, players like Lindy Jones, who really helped us through a game. I mean, she scored 40 points. She tied Lisa Miller's all-time school record. You know, having a player like that is just really, really added to our team. And we had 3 other people in double figures. Leah Sheets and Tara Missoula had double-doubles. They had double rebounds, double scoring and rebounds and scoring. So for us, that was a real good accomplishment, especially for Leah, who's a freshman. And that was probably one of the best games that she has played this year. So just some of the overall stats for some of our kids. Lindy was 13 of 22 for 2 points. She was 4 for 4 from three-point line, 10 of 15 from the free throw line. She only had 2 rebounds. She had a total of 40 points and 3 assists. Leah Sheets was 5 for 7, 13 of 14 from the line. She just did a fabulous job from the line. She ended up with 12 rebounds and a total of 23 points and 2 assists. Tara Missoula, she was 7 for 14 from 2-point, 3 for 4 from the line. She had 10 rebounds. She ended up fouling out, but you know, we ended up doing some positive things out of that, and she had 2 assists also. And Jenny Newhart was 5 for 10, 3 for 3 from the free throw line. She had 5 rebounds and only 13 points. She fouled out a little quick for us, and you know, we're hoping that she can get over that little habit there and stay in the game just a little bit longer for us. And then the other one out of our starters that just did a phenomenal job was Wendy Recker. She had a little off-night shooting, but she had 15 assists. And I don't know if that's close to school record or not, but she just did a fabulous job inside. Southern Indiana had 2 kids that really did a great job for them. Leanne Freeland, who scored 50 points. I guess she was 1 shy of the GLVC conference record.
Wow.
She's unstoppable, and she's a post player that can run the floor. So she did a great job. And they had an off guard that Eileen Weber, who scored 19 points. So those were their 2 high scores. And I think for us, the things that were really a positive is that we only had 10 turnovers the whole game, and for us, that's phenomenal. We shot 75% from the line, which is another good night for us, and we're able to force them to 21 turnovers. So I think that was a real key for us, is keeping our turnovers down low, and you know, forcing them to turn it over. I think that's really what helped us win the game.
We have several clips here, and this has been such an exciting game for you. Let's go ahead and take a look at quite a few of these, and then you can explain them to us. So we have the first clip rolling, and what's happening here?
Tara Missoula is going to be fronting down low, and she's going to cause some problems there. There's a double team, and Wendy Recker comes up with the ball, and she's going to push it up court, and she hits Leah there for 2 easy points down on the break. So that's really our strength in our offense, and we use our defense to create our offense. And in that clip there is a great example of where we're at and what our defense can do for us. And over the last few games, our defense has really improved, and it's really putting the pressure on people. And you know, hopefully we can continue that, so that we can draw more and more of our offense out of it.
And as the confidence builds with each game, the girls must be really excited.
Yeah, I think they're really starting to believe in themselves, and they're starting to see how it all fits together, and just real positive, and we're just hoping that this is going to be our foundation for next year.
Well, here's another clip, so Let's take a look at this one.
In this clip, we're going to have Dottie Porch, who ends up unfortunately missing the basket here. But as you see, USI comes up with the ball, and they're going to make a real poor choice here. Wendy Recker comes up with a steal. She does a great job getting back on defense. Hits Jenny Newhart there for the easy two. And, you know, we just need more and more of that every game, you know, getting back and forcing teams to cough it up.
Right.
And, you know, with Wendy getting back like she did, you know, a lot of times the defense doesn't look. They see, you know, 3 or 4 red jerseys up the floor, and, you know, they just don't take the time to see where the defense is. And Wendy did a great job getting back on that play. So, you know, we're really hoping, you know, down the road that we can put more ball pressure when they're dribbling it up and things like that to help, you know, stop other teams' fast breaks.
Yeah. We have one more clip here.
In this clip, we're playing defense and doing a good. Tara does a great job on Freeland, and Leanne Freeland just is a phenomenal player, and Tara just basically got beat up all night, and it didn't matter if she was behind or in front. It just Tara just had her work cut out from her from the get-go, and we ended up fouling 3 of our post players out, and that really created some problems down in the very end of the game. But this clip here coming up is, I think, shows just how physical the game was throughout. You know, Tara's really trying to get around her and working her inside, and you know, that's just tough for 40 minutes of play if you're in there the whole time trying to do that. We end up working the clock down to 9 seconds, and we're going to see she dishes off. We get the deflection out of bounds. The clock's down to 9 seconds right here. Freeland's going to end up passing off to their point guard, which you'll see here in a moment. And we'll end up fouling on the shot, and something that we've had real difficulty with through the course of the year is giving up the three-point play, allowing them to score the easy basket along with getting the free throw at the line. And this is something that our team really needs to work at. We need to do a better job stopping that type of play, because it just gets us in more trouble. Instead of only giving up maybe 2 points at the line, we're giving up 3 a lot. And we've just got to cut down on that. In this game, it happened 4 or 5 times. And that extra 5 points can really make a difference towards the end of the ball game.
Right.
So that was a real difficulty for us here in this part of the game.
Well, how do you feel that the bench performed for you this game as compared to the Kentucky Wesleyan game?
I think our bench did a lot better. In the Kentucky Wesleyan game, we didn't get any scoring, and I think we really didn't get some of the real defensive things that we need to get from our bench in the Kentucky Wesleyan game. However, I think in the USI game, Mandisha Holmes came off the bench. She played real good defense, and she was 3 for 4 from the line, and she hasn't got a lot of playing time. She's a freshman, and you just don't expect freshmen all the time to come in and do those things. And the 2 things that I was counting on was her scoring from the line and playing good D, and she came through for us.
Well, in our next segment, we're going to be discussing the future games, right? And against Thursday night, you have a game against University of Wisconsin Parkside, which
correct.
They're not in the conference now, but they will be next year, right? And thanks again for joining us this segment. I'm Becky Mark, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hi, welcome back. I'm Becky Mark once again, and we're here looking at some of the clips from Saturday evening's game against USI and IPFW women's basketball. So let's go ahead and cut to the next clip. And what
In this clip, Becky, this is just another good example of our defense. Tara getting around in the post, our help side coming over there with Jen. They got a trap, and Wendy does a great job cutting down, and that's just something that rotation has to happen. And earlier in the season, we weren't getting the downward rotation from our guards when help side was coming over. And Wendy just did a great job coming down. That's what we need her to do. It sort of sets up the offense, thinking that they have an easy pass there, but with the defense sliding down, they can't see them because they're trapped. So it's just something that we're really hoping that we can develop further through the season, and we're just starting to get a feel of what we're supposed to be doing defensively.
Great. And we have one more clip here.
In this clip coming up here, we just don't do a very good job boxing out, and they get 4 or 5 shots at the basket. And this is something that really hurt us during this game and the Kentucky Wesleyan game, is that we're just not keeping people off the boards and making them, I guess, earn it the hard way. And we're just turning looking for the basket or the ball to go through the basket, and our kids have to get away from that habit. We've been working on rebounding the last week, and you know, for us, it's really important that we overcome this. We're not the greatest leapers, and we're not the tallest team, so we have to learn that we got to box out and force people to reach over and draw the foul in that situation.
So if the women just get a little more confidence, and then they'll be able to take charge more and get the rebounds back and not give the opponents
Yeah,
more
the
opportunity.
confidence is part of it, and also just positioning and making the best of position. I think sometimes we get a little lazy. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, might probably a shot, and instead of boxing them out immediately and not giving them a second chance, we're allowing other people to take advantage of that. And each time that rebound goes up, we have to find somebody to box out, and it just takes one person that doesn't do it, and we break down defensively, and that's sort of where we're at right now. So hopefully we can overcome this, and part of the problem is one, we've allowed them to score the basket plus foul, or we get somebody else in foul trouble because we've made the mistake of not boxing out. So we need to cut back, and we just need to become a little smarter in that area.
Let's take a look at another clip right now.
In this clip, it just shows Lindy just how tough a player she is, and she's going to get the ball on the other side here, and I guess we turned it over in that one. So, but Lindy just without the clip, Lindy is a good player. Makes it so tough for her to defend, mainly, 1, because she can drive to the basket, and 2, because she can shoot the outside shot. And, you know, it just makes it so tough to defend a player like that. I mean, Lindy is just, I think, just an all-around good player. She works hard on defense as well as the offensive end. And we just need more great players like that. And I think Aaliyah Sheets is a young player that's going to turn into that. And, you know, hopefully down the road, Leah is that kind of player and can do the things by her junior year that Lindy's doing.
And Leah is a freshman this year or sophomore?
Leah's a freshman this
Okay.
year, so a lot of people think she's a sophomore, but she's a freshman, and she's just really stepped up her play and just fit in the starting role for us so well.
Okay. Here we got one last clip here.
It just shows a great assist by Dottie Porch there to Leah Sheets running the break. And just shows our team's unselfishness. Dottie could have, you know, maybe forced the shot there. She hasn't been in practice the last 2 weeks, and I think that was a smart decision on her part to kick it off. And you know, she just hasn't been in the flow of the game. She was only at 1 practice, and Saturday she played, but she gave us some great minutes in the post. Even if she didn't score very much, she did a lot of other things that helped us out in that game.
Now, why was she out of practice for 2 weeks?
Well, she had some personal medical problems that she needed to take care of, and she was not allowed to come back until Friday. She had an appointment on Friday and got back late in the afternoon to practice. But you're talking about a player that hasn't been able to run up and down the court for 2 weeks and hasn't gotten much shooting in. So for her to just step in and play on Saturday was, you know, just a big step.
And here's a clip here.
In this clip, we've got just our defense, and there Dottie cuts the baseline off. Tara's doing a great job in the post. Forced a pretty tough shot there, getting over the back call there on Freeland. So Dottie did a good job, going to the boards on the weak side that time. And we just need more of the rebounding kinds of things from our players. But, we're coming along as a team, and we're doing some real positive things. Every game I can see us getting better and better in different areas, and that's what we're really trying to work for.
Well, let's discuss some of the future games that IPFW has. Now, Thursday evening, you're going to be playing a non-conference team, which unfortunately it won't be televised.
Right.
But that game is against who, and where will it be played at?
It'll be here at the Gate Center. It's going to be against the University of Wisconsin Parkside. We had a chance to see them in a tournament earlier in the year. They're a pretty physical and scrappy team. They run a lot of motion in their offense, so it's going to be a little tough to defend that. Because they are so scrappy, it's going to make it a little difficult for us maybe at times to defend them. I don't know if our bench matches up to their group that they have, as well as we've matched up against some other teams. Also, the thing I guess that we really want to try to strive is to really work on the defensive end again, to force, our fast break, and see how we can do and handle a non-conference team that we've seen already. And they're a good team, and I think that it'll be a real exciting game.
And just to keep the momentum going coming off of that big win.
Yeah, and I think that's real important, especially when we go back to the second part of conference play starting on Saturday against Ashland. We need that momentum. We don't need a loss, for no reason. We need to be able to have the win and keep rolling with the pluses.
Now, the game against Ashland, that will be televised, and that will be played here also?
Yes, that's here at 6 o'clock on Saturday against Ashland University. Unfortunately, we lost to them in the first round by 1 point at their place. I don't anticipate us losing this game. I think that having the home court advantage and being at home will help us for sure pull that win off.
Well, it's been a very exciting show, and I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Matt DeLong will be back next week. Again, I'm Becky Mark, and I just want to wish all the IPFW women's basketball team good luck on Thursday evening and Saturday evening. Thanks again for joining us.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and we're going to be talking about IPFW women's basketball. Joining me in just a few moments will be IPFW women's basketball head coach, Pam Bowden. So stay tuned. We're going to recap last week and look forward to this week in IPFW women's basketball. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. First-year IPFW women's basketball coach Pam Bowden is enjoying a fine preseason after coming to IPFW from the University of Alaska Anchorage. She has inherited a club which returns no seniors but still enjoys one of the top ratings in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. We want you to tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 to find out more information about the IPFW women's basketball team all season long.
Check it out! The campus has it all. Learn it, or work it, or play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now! Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. Again, I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and joining me now, Coach Pam Bowden. And Coach, I guess congratulations are in order for really the last couple weeks. I think things are really starting to come around. You know, you come in from Alaska Anchorage, and you really bring a new system with you. And I think that I guess your wildest dreams are actually coming true about the way that the girls are starting to adapt. The record's up to 12-7 now. You did find yourself at 7-7 after a pretty good start, and then things kind of fell away a little bit. But now everything seems to really be coming back around with 2 wins last week, and we'll get into that. Just your thoughts on how everything has kind of worked itself out.
Well, I think things are really coming together, partly because I think our defense is getting better. We're getting more comfortable as a team and understanding our roles better. The last couple games, our bench has been giving us a little bit more from the defensive side and adding a little scoring in. So I think just a combination of several things have just, I guess, opened our eyes, and we're a little bit more confident. And, I think we're just, stepping up to the challenge game by game, and, hopefully things work out down the road.
It seems that there's been a whole lot more points scored here lately.
Yeah. Yeah, we seem to be pushing the ball up the floor pretty well and getting the open shot in our offense pretty early. And we've had quite a few games in the 90s, and a couple times we've broke the century mark. So it's been real nice, and I think the kids feel real good about themselves.
Going back a couple weeks, things weren't quite as positive. There were losses against St. Joseph's, which was a very physical game on the road. Against a very good team,
right,
as well. There were losses earlier to Bellarmine when Bellarmine's thought to be down this year, and they still come out with a big win again on the road. Do you think that the team has kind of reached a low, and then at a point where they could have given up or fought back, that they've really chosen to fight back and come back at teams that would be quote unquote the favorites? And do you think they're bound and determined to succeed?
Well, I really think that they did want the challenge and accept the challenge. I think they were a little tired of losing. There's 2 out of 3 games I thought that we should have won and not lost. Maybe even 3 games that we should have won. The Ashland game, the first time around, I felt that we totally blew it in the last minute. We missed. We were 1 for 5 1-and-1s, and we didn't even hit the second shot out of the one we did make. So that really killed us in the last minute of that game. University of Indianapolis and Northern Kentucky game, I thought we were within reach. The other 2 games, we just ran out of gas and just didn't have what it took to accomplish. The Bellarmine game or the St. Joe's game to pull off the win in those 2 games. We just didn't have what was needed.
Well, Coach, before we get into last week's action, you're 5-5 in the conference now. As we were just talking before we came on, we're 3 games out of first place.
Right.
What's it going to take for the Lady Dons to get the GLVC championship this year?
Well, first I think what we have to do is we have to look at each game and approach each game one by one and not look down to, oh, God, we could win the championship if we win 8 games or whatever. I think the only way that we can pull anything off like that is, we have to take Indianapolis. We have to work hard today and tomorrow, and then Friday we have to look at, working real hard to to beat Northern Kentucky. So we really have to focus in game by game on our opponents and what we need to accomplish to win each game, and just continue to develop our defensive end. I think our kids are really starting to see where the defense is paying off. It's giving us a lot of fast break opportunities, and just like the Ashland game the other day, I mean, we shot 55% from the floor and had, 90-some points. You know, you can't argue with that, and you know, you're going to go a long way if you can do those things.
And you talked about picking up the defensive intensity, Coach, and in this current 5-game win streak, and most of the games have been here at home, there has been just a drastic improvement in the defensive intensity,
Right.
with a very physical, not dirty, but a very physical type of play. And you've still just been using basically a 7-person rotation. 3 girls have been playing about 40 minutes a game during this stretch: Lindy Jones, Leah Sheets, and Wendy Recker.
Right.
And yet the team is still able to, and I guess it's a tribute to their conditioning at this point of the year, go for 40 minutes, or 35, 33 even is pretty good. But that defensive intensity seems to be the difference.
Yeah, I think once our kids really decided that they wanted to play some defense and do, work hard on that end, I think that things have really come together for us. And I think they're getting more confident every game, and they're starting to understand it's not just the double team, but also the guard rotation down after help side doubles, that we're getting that, and we're starting to do the whole defensive scheme and not just parts of it. And we're getting better and better. I mean, we still have a ways to go yet with the intensity I want yet down the road, but I think we're making real good progress towards that. And I think that's going to help us really just a tremendous amount next year, understanding where we are and where we have to go.
I know a lot of people hear us mention the name Lindy Jones a lot, and of course, being from Decatur, she's been in the Fort Wayne media, but actually she's become a better basketball player in the last month or so. In the last 5 games, she's averaging 27.5 points a game, and those are 5 wins for your team. She's really stepped it up a notch, but as is the case, I think a lot of times in streaks like this, sometimes other players kind of slack off. But you've seen a steady play out of everybody, actually. Jenny Newhart gets a career-high 28 the other night. The play of Leah Sheets, we'll talk about, has just been phenomenal. But Lindy has still stepped her game up to another level.
Well, I think the real good, I guess she's a real good example of somebody that's able to do that and take, and accept the challenge, and she's a definite leader for us. And I think she needs to be able to do those things. I mean, she's getting 7 boards the last few games, and I don't even know if that's what she's averaging, but I mean, she's doing real well. She's got quite a few steals. She has assists. She's playing an all-around game, and I think that a person might look and say, she scored 40 points. If you had asked me if she scored 40 points in that game, I never would have thought that against USI she would have had 40. No way. If you'd asked me after the game, I just didn't think. I mean, they're just spread out, and I think the game was so intense that everybody was just trying to do what we needed to do to win. And I think people are putting that in perspective, that's the bottom line, and we're getting that accomplished.
And everybody else is picking up where actually in the past that hadn't been done. Lindy now averaging 25.3 points per game in 10 GLVC games, so pretty solid season all around. We're going to be back, talk about last week's Ashland and Wisconsin Parkside games. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. The college basketball season is underway for 1994-95, and the Great Lakes Valley Conference has been rated by some as the toughest of the NCAA Division II conferences. Join Coach Andy Piazza and me, Matt DeLong, to get a closer look at the IPFW team and this year's competition.
The 101 Dalmatians is one of the most beloved children's stories of all time, and now is coming live to the stage.
101 Dalmatians seems a lot of fun.
Pongo, Cruella de Vil, they're all brought to life in this new musical stage version, and the audience becomes the 99 Dog-Nap puppies as they bark and join in the fun of the 101 Dalmatians.
back to the Pam Bowden Show. Again, I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and joining me now is the coach, Pam Bowden. And Coach, we're going to talk about last week's contest now, and 2 more wins. You had 3 in a row, now you got 5 in a row. And just a little while, we're going to be looking ahead to upcoming Lady Don action. But right now, Wisconsin Parkside. As we talked earlier, you said early in the season you thought this might be a real challenge, a team that's going to be joining the GLVC next year. It's good to get them in a non-league type schedule, really to break up the schedule. Right. Here in the middle of the GLVC play, starting the 2nd round of Great Lakes Valley Conference action. It was a 79-62 win, but it seemed kind of rough. It was a kind of a rough ride to come out with this one.
Yeah, it was a little bit. They had only won 4 or 5 games all year. And when we first saw them at Grand Valley's tournament, they were in a better state as far as health and the number of kids that they had. So when we first saw them, they were a lot scrappier and a lot more physical and just really moved the ball. But for Wisconsin Parkside, they sort of had some injuries, and they had several players that were injured even during our game. And they have a young team also, and so with several of those factors, they weren't able to, play at the same level that they started out early in the year. And I think that down the road, in the next year or 2, I think they'll really develop into a nice ball club.
It seemed like Parkside was definitely overmatched by IPFW, both size-wise, but especially experience-wise. They're a very young team.
Right.
I think they had a record of 5-14. So they've struggled just a little bit, with that. But your team, it just seemed like they were trying too hard to just blow this team away, and hence the team kind of hung around there.
Yeah, I think we struggled a little bit off and on, and Wendy didn't have a good night shooting, and Lindy struggled a little bit in the beginning, and so just a few factors. And I think the hardest thing is getting yourself up for somebody that you're going to beat. And maybe you're going to beat them bad, and you're just not as motivated. I mean, there's a lot more motivation when you play a USI, or somebody of that caliber, and I think that was a real big part of it.
You talked about, I guess I'll point out the scores. Jenny Newhart had 16. Lindy Jones finishes with 16, and both of those girls end up also with 9 rebounds. We talked about how Lindy's really been rebounding at an exceptional rate. But Wendy Recker, I mean, her play here recently, the last 3 games, she's had 15, 12, and 11 assists. She's really setting quite a pace here.
Yes, she is, and I think after this week, or after last weekend, she should be up in the top 10 in assists nationally.
It was she was prior to last week, and now another 2 double.
Yeah, she'd really
double
jump
digits.
her up a couple
Exactly.
notches here, and she's leading the conference in assists. She's doing a heck of a job, and I know she was a little frustrated after the Ashland game, because she had 8 turnovers, but it was a real physical game, and sometimes calls can go one way or the other, and she didn't maybe get a couple of the calls maybe that she felt she should have got. Maybe she thought she got fouled a couple times, but I think she hung in there, and I just look for her doing just a phenomenal job in as far as passing the ball, and she's done some really good things in her offense, and even out of bounds plays, she's hit some real key people, making some easy scores, and she's just doing a heck of a job, and she can't look at the turnovers in a real rough game like that. She's just got to be able to accept that's part of it, especially in the point, as much as she's playing, that sometimes that's going to happen.
And Wendy also is something that's impressed me. She's dishing the ball out, obviously at a lot greater pace than she ever has, but it seems like her shot selection is really improving as the season goes on.
I think she's becoming more aware of what her shot is, and when she has it. I know she struggled a little bit as far as shooting percentage, but I think she's still getting herself open for some good shots, and it'll fall even if she's cold a night or 2, and I think even Saturday she struggled a little bit Thursday, but Saturday she came and it started falling for her a little bit better. So you know, I just look for good things. I mean, she can hit double-doubles in both of those areas, and if she does that, she's doing a heck of a job for us.
That was a 79-62 win over Parkside. Then you move on Saturday to the second half of the GLVC season, and unlike the first half, where you started off with Ashland, it was a tough loss. You were able to really come back and dominate this team. 98-76 win here at home. So you start the second half off in fine fashion, actually keep the streak going. We got some clips, so we're going to roll those here as we talk. But just a great win for your team.
Yeah, it was. I'm real excited to see how we're doing and that we were able to come back and do what we needed. And in this clip here, this is a good example of our press breaker. Get down the sideline a little bit too much, but Lindy hits Jenny, who's sealing real well in the post off the break, and you know, it gives us an easy 2 points. And after a while, Ashland had to come out of it. We were doing real well, and we actually started getting a lot of momentum, and it was hurting them towards the end of the game, so they had to pull out of the press.
Well, Jenny, that was pretty much the story of the game for her, wasn't it? That turnaround jumper, she's left-handed, had it going. In the first half, I believe she was 8 of 9. Whatever else she had from the, she was actually 10 of 11 or 10 of 12, I should say. And then some free throws, and she finishes the first half tying her career high with 24 points.
Yeah, she did a phenomenal job for us, and we really need her to be able to be at a real consistent level for us. We seem to be getting a half or part of a second half from her, but we need her maybe to make it a little bit more consistent in, you know, game in and game out. And you know, we're just hoping for some real good things from her down the road.
Let's take a look at some more action here, Coach.
Okay. In this one, we have a sideline play, and Lindy takes the ball out, and Tara sets a good screen and weak side, and usually we run that Lindy off the double screen on the weak side, and on that play, she was reading the defense real well, and Wendy was able to hit a pass back to her before she made the cut all the way through for an easy 2. So, you know, we just are hoping that as we develop, we can read our defense better from play to play, and we seem to be doing that.
Yeah, let's take a look at just a little bit more action here, or maybe we're not going to take a look at any more action. So, okay, yeah, we're not going to take a look at any more action, though, Coach. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Maybe get a little bit more footage here in just a few minutes. And I was just going to point out how that Lindy got fouled on the shot. It's that double pump.
Yeah.
Is basically a patented move of hers now.
It is, and it really throws some people off, and she's able to draw the foul a lot of times and give us 3.
Okay, we'll be back here in just a few moments with more of the Pam Bowden Show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Dan Gebhardt. I'm the Associate Athletic Director at IPFW, and the Athletic Department, in association with the IU and Purdue Alumni Associations at Fort Wayne, would like to invite you to an alumni reunion on Saturday, February the 18th. On that night, the Pumas of St. Joseph College will visit IPFW to play a men's and women's basketball doubleheader. The women's game starts at 6, and the men's game starts at 8. There'll be a number of social events going on in addition to a hospitality room at halftime and between the games. We'd certainly like to have you participate. Call the alumni office at 481-6807 for further information. Hope to see you that night.
Works for me.
Hello once again. Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. And Coach, we were just talking a few moments ago before the break about the Ashland game. You were pointing a few things out. And again, it was a 98-76 win. We were talking about Jenny Newhard's career high.
Yeah.
She reached it in the first half. And actually, I mean, she's been called the one-half wonder. She's had some spectacular halves this year. And then because of foul trouble,
Right.
because of changing defenses, and credit the other teams, they've concentrated on her. And actually, I think it's been somewhat of a benefit because the second half all season has belonged to Lindy Jones for you.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we can get the ball into the post early in the game, it really causes some teams some trouble. And I know that Ashland was really worried about that after the first half with her scoring so many points. And it just opened our outside game up so much. And it did allow Lindy and some others to score from the outside. And, you know, that's what we need. We need to be able to play the inside game when it's available to us, and we need to be go the outside game when they're, you know, they're closing the inside game off. So, you know, just so many of those factors just add so much more to us because we can do both things, and it's been real beneficial for us.
Jenny did end up finishing the game with 28 points, which
Right.
is still a career high, but 48 still would have been kind of nice. You know, we
Sure
wouldn't mind
would have.
seeing that, and it'll give something. Jenny, if you're watching, 48 is where you want to go. So we'll try to get there. But then Lindy Jones comes back at the end of the game and actually overtakes her. A lot of free throws. They were fouling Lindy. Lindy, of course, is the one with the ball. She ends with 29 points, and again, 27 points per game the last 5 games. It's not too bad for her. So, but anyway, we're going to get back to a little bit more film here, Coach, and why don't you take it from there?
Well, this next play that's coming up is our out-of-bounds play, which we call number 1, and it is a screen across, and here it is. And we have Jen coming over, setting the screen and sealing and getting the inside roll on that, and Wendy hits her with a real quick pass. And it's nice and easy like that, you know. It makes it fun when you can score so quickly off that out-of-bounds play and you don't have to set your offense up.
And again, she was hot. You kept going to her, and probably out of 10 field goals, 7 of them were probably on the block, exactly where you saw that. There was nothing fancy about it. She was just aggressive, taking the ball up. And you said maybe a problem of Jenny's, why maybe sometimes it does kind of leave her for short periods, is because she doesn't quite get squared to the bucket, takes some
Right.
off-balance shots sometimes.
And part of that's some of our own fault because of where we're passing the ball. Sometimes we're not hitting her with a bounce pass, and she's reaching for it, and she's already in her motion instead of getting control of the ball, jump stopping, and then making a move. So part of that is it's all tied together. If we're not doing one thing, then it leads to something else, so sort of a domino effect.
Going to go back to the tape again.
In this next tape coming up, we have our press breaker again, and we have a couple passes here and there, and we hit Jen for a nice, easy one. You know, it's nice when your center can get up down the floor, and I think a lot of times people aren't expecting us to break the press so easily, and when we've broken it the right way and made the quick passes to the people we need to make it, you know, that's what our result is, and it forced Ashland out of the press, and it just gave us so much momentum.
Of course, this has kind of been a Jenny Newhard highlight
Yeah.
here, because she was at the receiving end of some awful nice plays, and part of that receiving end enabling Jenny, I think, to really start to come out has been the insertion of Leah Sheets. She's getting a lot more time. Once this freshman got rolling, there's really been no stopping her, and she's been probably, in some aspects, your most consistent player during the streak.
Yeah, I think that's really true through the year. I think Leah's just gotten better and better. Her defense has always been there, and her offense has really come along. You know, she's not traveling anymore. I mean, she's really cut back on that. And for a freshman to be playing at the level that she's playing at right now, I mean, we have a lot of high expectations for her down the road. But, I mean, I think she's just really added so much to our team, and especially to our running game and our pressing, or our breaking the press. And, you know, she's just helped us significantly from the defensive aspect leading into our offense. You know, I don't know if I could have ever dreamed of that happening from a freshman.
Well, on the season, she's averaging 11 points a game, but more importantly, in the last 11 games, she's averaging 14 points a game, and she's also pulling down about 5.5 rebounds a game too. So very successful for Leah. We're going to go back to a little bit more of the tape now.
In this next clip coming up, we have Wendy making a defensive play here. Let's see. think she gets a tip, her hand on it.
There's
Oh,
Lindy coming out with the
pushing it
rebound
out.
now.
Here we go. Jump stop, pull up jumper, easy score, and that's really a good, I think, real good recognition from Lindy to be able to, bring the ball up off the rebound, pull up jumper off the break, and recognizing I don't have the layup and not forcing a bad shot. So that was a real good play by Lindy.
Okay, back to a little bit more of the film now. This is where you were talking about Wendy now.
Yeah, we make a bad pass right there, and they're bringing it up the court, but Wendy does a good job getting back, tips it, Leah gets the ball, pushes it up the court. She's going to hit Dottie, and Dottie passes back. And that's just the one thing I have to give to this team is they've played very unselfishly, and that's a great example of our team just doing what we need to do to get the job done, not caring who's scoring, and just doing a lot of good things for the win. And I'm real pleased with where we're at. We're really coming in as a team, and I'm real proud of where we're at, especially when we started out so slow.
A couple of the losses, and in particular Northern Kentucky and Indianapolis, which they're your opponents this weekend, and we're not going to have a whole lot of time to talk about them, but the team wasn't exactly 100% when you were going through that. You had Dottie Porch, who was out for 5 games, still recovering during that time. Then you had a very unfortunate poke in the eye to Jenny Newhart. She misses a Northern Kentucky game, which many would agree that was the difference in that game.
Yeah.
It really kind of saddled you down. What do we look for out of this weekend? You had 2 losses against these teams last week. The incentive's there.
Well, I think something that's going to be to our advantage is both teams don't know what the one post player can do, and because they have such old videotapes on us that it's not really going to help us to where we're at right now. So I think that's a real advantage for us. Plus, we're going to add the depth again, and I think that's where we came up short in those 2 games, and we didn't have the rest where we needed it. We didn't have some of the scoring where we needed it, and I just think that we're going to take the challenge and do some real positive things this week, and if we win this week, who knows what can happen.
Well, Indianapolis is 9-2 in the conference, Coach, 16-3 overall, and Northern Kentucky 7-4 in the conference, 12-7 overall. Kind of even. Almost had Indianapolis last time. Want to wish you good luck this Thursday, which is tomorrow, and Saturday. You got Northern Kentucky on Saturday, of course Indianapolis on Thursday. So again, good luck. Well, we're going to wrap things up now. I want to thank you, and we really appreciate you joining us here for this week in IPFW Women's Basketball, the Pam Bowden Show. For Coach Pam Bowden, I'm your host, Matt DeLong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back again next Wednesday, 7:30. Want to see you then. Thanks. Hello and welcome again to another edition of the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong. Joining me will be Coach Pam Bowden, head women's basketball coach here at IPFW. We're going to have a preview of the upcoming week, a couple home games here in Fort Wayne, plus a look back at last week. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the show.
Check it out. The campus has it all. Learn it, or work it, or play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now. Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Welcome back. Again, I'm your host, Matt DeLong. Joining me, Coach Pam Bowden. And, Coach, this is your show. And actually, the last couple weeks has been your show. Your women's basketball team has gone out and really kind of put IPFW back on the map compared to the way we kind of fell there for a little while, first round of the conference and losing some close games. But now as the second round starts, you had a 1-1 week last week, but if you look at the big picture, your last 7 games, you're 6-1, and that's got to give you a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, it sure does. I think that the kids have come a long way, and even with the loss against Indianapolis, I think that, they're a very good team, and we can't sell ourselves short. We stumbled a little bit during the game, but to only lose to them by 8 points is still a real good accomplishment, and we need to do a real good job this week, and I think if we do that, then I think we'll make a statement.
Well, Indianapolis has been ranked. I guess at one point they dropped out, and we expect them to probably get back in the pool. I don't know if they're back in quite yet, but probably the hottest team right now in the GLVC. If you look at their win over us, they are pretty hot, and so you ran into kind of a buzzsaw, and that was last Thursday night, so let's get into that. It was an 89-81 loss, but by all accounts, a little bit closer than even an 8-point game would indicate.
Yeah, we started out a little sluggish at the beginning. I think we were a little nervous, because we were playing the best team, and going to their place, I think, the mental side of it just takes a little longer to get into it, and I don't know if we were really totally ready at the beginning.
Nickerson Hall also not necessarily the easiest place to play.
No, it's a little different setting, just the way the facility's built, and so I think just with a lot of different factors, I think we had a little slow start, and we held our own for a little bit, and then we got back into the game, and we actually went up by 5 at halftime, and we were right in the game through most of it, and then about 10 minutes we just sort of had a real bad mental lapse, and they pressed us and changed their defense, and we didn't do a very good job against the press. We just were real sluggish, and I don't know what I really don't know what it was. It was real weird for our kids. It was the first time we'd ever really responded that way, and we got down about 18 points, and then held that sluggish mode, I guess, for about maybe 5 minutes, and then we started to pull ourselves out of it, and we started to press, and we got back into it, and maybe if we'd had a couple more minutes, we'd have been okay, but we just struggled there a little bit, and that just set us back.
Another problem resurfaced that we had seen earlier in the year. It seemed like it started to go away, and that was Jenny Newhart getting into foul trouble.
Right. Yeah, our post players really struggled during that game, and I really think that was a little unusual because if I were to say the strengths of Indianapolis, I would look at their guards as being probably the 3 strongest guards in the conference that we've faced all year, and I thought that we were going to have a little easier time in the post than what we did. We actually went from fronting in the post to playing behind, and I felt that by making that adjustment, we were going to get a lot more out of the rebounding side of it. And actually, that wasn't true. I thought that the rebounding for us didn't improve as I thought it would. And I don't know if our kids just felt that they weren't, just because we were behind, we didn't have to be as aggressive or what it was. But it really hurt us. And so we're back to fronting in the post and just making some adjustments, crisscrossing and things to make up for the rebounding.
Again, the final was 89-81, and once again, Lindy Jones really stood out. 34 points. I think she's been over 30 points 5 times this year. She, of course, the 40-point game against Southern Indiana, really proving herself and as one of the top players, definitely in the conference. But do you think she might be making that step onto the national scene? You come
here this year from Alaska. So you've seen NCAA Division II basketball in a different part of the country. So I think it would probably be fair for you to be a decent judge on how Lindy would stack up against some of the players out west and other parts of the country.
Well, I think Lindy can pretty much hold her own in Division II. She's one of the top players, I think, in the country, and hopefully she'll get recognized as that down the road. I think, you know, whether it's out east, out west, she's right up there. She's one of the finest players I've seen at this level, and you know, I'm glad that we have her and that a lot of other teams don't have her. And you know, I just hope that she can continue at that level and we can continue to get out of her that kind of, I guess, act to what she's good at.
Of course, like I said, she had 34 points, also 5 rebounds, and maybe more importantly to you, she was 9 of 9 from the free throw line. You have put a strong emphasis on free throw shooting, as most coaches do. But I think especially you, I mean, at least in my observations. And the team in this game was 19 of 23. Not too bad, but they have been a little bit inconsistent. They'll have one great game and then maybe drop off for a couple games.
Well, a perfect example is last week. You know, we go to Northern Kentucky as a second game of the week, and we shoot 50-some% from the line. So, you know, 19 to 23 in one game, and then we shoot 50% the next game. To me, it's just a real mental part of the game, and I don't know if it's because we're on the road and we're not as confident, or we don't get as much shooting, or, you know, I don't know if the depth, or you know, I'm really not sure what the factors are playing in here, but I do know that we're very inconsistent, and we have the ability to be a very good free throw shooting team, yet there are some times that we really have the mental lapse, and I'm hoping that we can take care of that, you know, before next year.
Okay, also in the game for you against Indianapolis, another pretty good performance by Leah Sheets, 12 points. She had 7 rebounds. And a stat that stands out to me is 6 assists. I mean, she's really been very solid for you, and you have to be, as we've talked about on past shows, just so pleased with her development.
Oh, I'm very pleased, and I don't know if anybody expected her to be doing the things that she's doing this year as a freshman. And, you know, I just hope that she can keep that aggressiveness up and keep improving from game to game. And I know as the longer we go, the slower it'll be as far as progression. But I hope that she can really progress and maybe down the road turn into a Lindy Jones quality of player. And I think she's headed in the right direction.
And I've heard the comparisons made by some fans of her to Lindy when Lindy was a freshman. And of course, Lindy led the team in scoring as a freshman, and Leah won't do that because Lindy's around. But you know, maybe something in the future there. Dottie Porch comes off the bench, excuse me, has 12 points, 6 rebounds, a strong performance in 18 minutes for her. And we'll talk a little bit more about Dottie, perhaps getting in the starting lineup, and then some reasons behind that. Also for IPFW, Jenny Newhard broke into double figures against Indy. 10 points, 8 rebounds. It was a good game for her, but then again, the foul trouble came in, and Jenny, we just got to say, keep your hands off. The refs are after you. We're going to come back with the next segment in just a few moments. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
First-year IPFW women's basketball coach Pam Bowden is enjoying a fine preseason after coming to IPFW from the University of Alaska Anchorage. She has inherited a club which returns no seniors but still enjoys one of the top ratings in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. We want you to tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 to find out more information about the IPFW women's basketball team all season long.
Hello, I'm Arnie Ball.
And I'm Tim Heffron.
Watch us every Friday evening at 7 p.m. for IPFW Volleyball highlights.
We'll also describe strategies and fundamentals for all you new volleyball fans.
We may even invite a Volleyball or two to join us on the show, so tune in to us every Friday night at 7 p.m. here on Channel 6.
Welcome back to the show. Again, I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and Coach Pam Bowden with me now. And Coach, Indianapolis was a tough loss. Lessons learned. playing the #1 team in the conference, and they definitely are the #1 team, having after Southern Indiana's performance against us in Ashland. It's pretty much been Indianapolis has been a team to shoot for. You shot, missed a little bit. I think you've really, though, all in all, just to wrap Indianapolis up, the #1 team in the conference, I'd say still 2 very respectable performances by your young team.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a long way to go, and I think that, you know, even if you have a setback against a good team like that, I mean, there's things that you can learn out of it, and hopefully we learn those things and we can, you know, make good progression towards next year, and even the latter part of this season. I think we still have an opportunity. It's a slim shot, but you never know how things fall out.
And that opportunity is to get into the NCAA tournament, and Pam and I were just talking just a few moments ago about what IPFW's chances were, and a little bit later I think we're going to expound on that point just a little bit. So, you know, we want you to stay tuned and you know, hear that segment, because I'm kind of interested myself. I want to hear what she has to say. And anytime that you're dealing with an NCAA tournament, there are so many different factors, and I think Coach will probably share a few of those with us, what those factors are. So anyway, back to last week, Coach. Saturday, you go to Northern Kentucky. It's a team that quite frankly, you should have beat the first time you played them, and your ladies knew that. So they go in not necessarily playing a team that destroyed them or beat them bad or anything like that. It's still a very tight game. It comes down to the finals, right to the end of the game, and you'll take us through it. But 63-62, it was a big win on Northern Kentucky's homecoming. They had the fans there, and again, just a great all-around team effort for you, really.
Yeah, it sure was. We played pretty consistent for most of the game, and we actually got up 9 points a couple times in the second half, and they, you know, just clawed back and got it within 4 and 5 both times, and it got to the very end, and basically the ball game was in basically about a 30-second game. You know, we should just played 30 seconds and got done, and would have been okay. But you know, we really lucked out. We got to they kept putting us to the line the last minute and a half, and we kept missing from the line again, which I said we only shot 50%, which really hurt us. And they probably, if they had had a few more minutes, probably could have pulled it off just because of our poor free throw shooting attempts. And you know, we got to a point, I think it was about 15 seconds, they had tied it at 62. We got the ball out of bounds real quick. We pushed it up the court. Lindy had a drive on the right side of the baseline and was fouled. She goes to the line. She misses the first one. We get the second shot she puts in, and they get the ball out of bounds real quick, and they push it up the court, call timeout. And I really thought they were going to go to their big kid in the post with a lob pass because there was no weak side help. And if it wasn't that, I figured maybe they were going to go to their best guard, try to drive and draw the foul. That didn't happen, and I guess they were stuck to their third option with one of their off guards shooting it. And the shot went up. It was about a 15-footer, but Leah got her hand just enough on the ball, and it just sort of deflected a little bit off kilter, and we were lucky that it didn't go in.
And again, leading the way for you all in that game was Lindy Jones, Jane Newhart again. Both of them had 16 points, and it seemed like they were, again, the go-to people.
Right, and Jen had double-doubles also. She had, I think, 10 boards in that game, and
11,
that was real helpful. 11. And that was real helpful because we were just sort of staying even with them with the boards, and at the very end, Jenny just got really tough and did some really good things at the end with as far as rebounding was concerned, and I think that really helped us pull it out.
Just recently, the team is definitely, the confidence is building. And what your hopes are, and again, we'll talk about the NCAA tournament, but even next season, or I mean, this season aside, whatever happens, playing games such as the Ashland game, the second time around, Northern Kentucky, what's it doing for this team? They know they're playing well and getting into the second round of the conference now after quite honestly a disappointing first round.
Right.
But you're getting into the second round, and they're beating teams now that beat them the first time around. How gratifying is it to you as a coach? Probably a great deal of gratification with any win, but what does it do for the confidence of your team?
Well, I think for one, I mean, partly, you know, we had Dottie out and Jen out some of those games, and I think that was a real big factor. But I mean, besides that, I mean, you have to go with the pluses and negatives as far as injuries are concerned, and that obviously was a very big negative part of our season when we were missing those kids. But I think it's real good for our kids to see that, you know, we are beating these teams the second time around, and it is a real confidence builder. And, you know, with us only losing 1 out of 7 games, I think that's just really proven to ourselves that we can do it and that we are a good team. And it's just game by game we're getting more confidence. In some games, you know, we don't play as well as maybe we did another game, but I think we're still believing in ourselves. And even if we aren't playing as well, we're finishing with a W, and instead of pulling off the loss because we just didn't have the confidence in the end. And I think we're getting that, and the Northern Kentucky is a perfect example.
So, Coach, the record right now stands at 13-8. There are a few teams that are right around you, but basically the 6-1 streak that you're on right now has set you up for a chance, depending on how you finish out the regular season, which is not going to be a cakewalk.
No.
Especially coming up next week, and we'll talk about St. Joseph's in our next segment. But you definitely have some challenges. What's it going to take for IPFW to maybe find its way into the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think if we have a chance, basically we have to win every game here on out, I think. If there was a game that we could lose, it was against Indianapolis because they are the #1 team. And, you know, if we could have beat them, it would have helped us a little bit more. But I think if there was any team that we did lose to out of the last part of our season, it was them. The rest of it comes down to who knocks who off, and I'm really hoping Indianapolis stays on top the way they are, and I hope they don't get very many losses the rest of the way out and they just make a clean run for it. And I think that could give us a real positive chance with everybody else and who everybody else has to play. You know, because the Southerns has to play Bellarmine at home, at Bellarmine, and, you know, so depending on who's where and everything, and where they're playing could have a real outcome on where some of these teams finish up. And, you know, we're not out of it yet, but, you know, we really have to continue to win. And I think if we can beat Lewis and beat St. Joe's this week, that'll just give us that much more momentum going into the away trip we have the following week.
Now, real quick, who else should we look for out of this region that would have a chance of making this tournament?
Well, I think USI is a real strong competitor yet, and I think Bellarmine has really done some good things. And, you know, it just depends how the chips fall.
Okay, we're going to be talking about this coming week in IPFW basketball. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. We're talking about IPFW women's basketball, and we just want to take this time to make sure that you understand that we are playing this week, and we will be playing tomorrow night at the Gates Sports Center against Lewis University. The women's game is going to be starting at 6:05, and of course it'll be televised here on Channel 6, but you know, Channel 6 would appreciate it too if you'd come out and get in the way of their cameras a little bit and make some faces and stuff, you know, some hi mom, maybe draw some designs on your belly, stuff like that. So again, that starts at 6:05, and then about 8:05 we're going to tip off the men's game. Again, it's Lewis University, and then Saturday we're going to remain at home, and it'll be St. Joseph's College coming in from Rensselaer, Indiana. And I know that a lot of the St. Joseph's athletes, well, some of them are from the Fort Wayne area, and so really even if you're not necessarily an IPFW fanatic and you have some friends from St. Joe's, it'd be a good opportunity. And we enjoy bringing those players back into town as part of the reason for the competition. So those games, again, start at 6:05 and 8:05. So I drug that out enough, Pam. Let's talk about these teams. St. Joseph's, again, a very strong women's program. Lynn Plett, who was the men's coach last year at Huntington College, just up the road, has taken them over. And we'll get into them in just a few minutes when we get to Saturday's segment. Let's talk about Lewis. Really not a very strong program.
No, they've really struggled this whole year. And in fact, they finally got their first conference win last week against Kentucky State. They beat them by 14, and that's a real good win for them. They've got a couple kids that can really shoot the ball, but they just don't have the depth that we have, and I expect us to do some good things on Thursday night.
Well, they're 6-16 overall now, and so it gives them one win in the conference. But they do have a couple players that are capable of having big nights. Brenda Wegsren, I believe is her name. She's averaging 13.5 points and 8.5 rebounds a game. So, again, very strong, and she's inside 5'11", probably be matched up with Jenny or maybe Tara and Dottie, take some turns there. And also Joy King, she's a guard. She averages 13 points and also has to go down low and averages 5.5 rebounds a game.
Yeah, she's a pretty tough player. She's real physical and aggressive and a real good all-around player. And I know that we didn't shut her off as much as we could have in the first game, and that's something that we're looking to do. Hopefully we give that defensive assignment to Leah Sheets and see if Leah can keep her down in the single digits.
I believe the last game, Lindy Jones led all scores with 35 points, and you really felt after that game, had you known on the bench that the school record was 40, which Lindy would eventually tie, but had you known that she could have gotten that pretty much in her sleep.
Yeah, she could have gotten it very easily. We sat her out at least 5 to 8 minutes in the second half, and there was no real reason to run the score up, but it would have been nice to see Lindy break the school record.
Okay, Coach, let's talk about St. Joseph's. This is a team that put it to you pretty good. It was 106-86, I believe they beat you. Yeah. Or at least it was a 20-point spread. And there was something like
86 free throws.
Yeah, 86 free throws. I mean, go figure. So you really, you don't expect that kind of a game here. You don't expect that kind of a game ever. So actually, how do you prepare for this team? Because that's really, it's not fair for either team what you had to go through the last time. And I think yourself and Coach Plett would agree that that really wasn't basketball as far as the way that you're going to prepare and how can you prepare for a game when it's constantly stopped. And so, I'm sure the word got out, and the fouls are probably going to be kept at more of a minimum, at least as far as the officiating goes. So how do you prepare for this team? Because you really have to throw the last one out.
Well, I think the real key for us is to do a very good job defensively against them one-on-one, and to be able to convert into our running game and really push the ball up and take advantage of our strengths and have a great night shooting from the floor. And I think if we do that, the ball games can go either way, and St. Joe's really put the pressure on people, and they're really, doing a great job, and so they're going to be a very competitive team. And if we beat them, I think it's going to be a great win for us.
If you beat them, you're beating the number 2 team in the conference. They've actually, on percentage points, I believe, gone ahead of Southern Indiana. And who would have thought this 3 weeks ago that St. Joe and Indianapolis would be on top of Southern Indiana? But they indeed are. They're 14-7 overall, and then 10-3 in the conference. But looking at the overall picture, this is actually a game that you have to have with any hopes of remaining alive in the NCAA tournament race. You being 13-8.
Right, and even with 8 losses, I think some of the teams that we're competing against in the region are at 7-8 right now too. They've just pulled off a couple more wins than we have, and that's real key. This game on Saturday is definitely a very key game for us to see if we can stay alive.
Now, Coach, let's talk about something I had mentioned to you earlier, and it's some of your girls are really playing a lot of minutes, putting in some serious overtime, actually between 37 and 40 minutes a game. And the players in particular would be Leah Sheets, actually Jenny Newhart, if she stays out of foul trouble. Okay, and a lot of that had to do also when Dottie was sick. Lindy Jones and Wendy Recker, actually the two that are sharing the brunt of the playing time. Actually, had, I think, 3 games in a row where they played 40 minutes. But now Dottie Porch seems to be coming along. Tara Mazzillo's taken a little different approach. Now Dottie has been moved into the starting lineup, and you have some explanations. There's no punishments involved here at all.
No. Tara, we had talked about, you know, just the mental side of the game and this and that, you know, as far as she was concerned individually. And I think that she wanted to have an opportunity to get a real good look at the person she's going to be playing defense against and who's going to be playing her defensively. And she just wanted a real good chance to study the person and get in the flow of the game mentally when it started. And so that's part of the reason why she's starting right now, and or that we've taken her out of the starting lineup and given Dottie the opportunity to start. And I think it's a good move for Dottie. I think that she can do some real positive things, and maybe she can get a few extra minutes out of it that way. You know, and I had told Tara that, you know, if Dottie's doing what we need her to do, she's going to stay there, and we'll rotate depending upon, you know, what our needs are at that point. And she understands that, and it's been a real good, I think, positive move for us.
Well, maybe we'll talk about it. We'll get into the minutes issue on next week's show. But and hopefully, hey, if they got to go 40 minutes, then things seem to be working. Again, a 6-1 run right now. The loss to Indianapolis, but certainly nothing to hang your head about. And Coach, good luck. Good luck this weekend. And good luck in the possibility of a future NCAA tournament bid.
Thank you so very much, man.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap the show up now. But again, we want to invite you to come out to the Hilliard Gate Sports Center this Thursday, 6:05 and 8:05. It's the women's game first, the men's game second. And we also want to ask you to come out Saturday at 6:05 and 8:05. Of course, Thursday it's Lewis University from Romeoville, Illinois. And then Rensselaer, Indiana's St. Joseph's Pumas will be coming in town on Saturday. Thanks for joining us for the Pam Bowden Show, and we'll see you again next week.
Do it the Volleydon way.
Drug-free.
I'm sorry, Greg. Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Pam Bowden Show, where we're going to be discussing IPFW women's basketball from the past week and a look into this week in IPFW women's basketball. Joining me here in just a few moments will be IPFW women's basketball head coach Pam Bowden, so please stay tuned and we'll be right back with today's show.
has it all. Learn it, or work it, or play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now. Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and Coach, we talked last week about how hot the team has been, and really the week started out last week was a 1-1 week. By the way, the record now stands at 14-9 on the season. You're back at 500 now in the GLVC, but let's kind of take the path that got us to this point. Really, at the beginning of the GLVC season, things really looked kind of bleak for you there for quite some time, but the ladies fought back and have really salvaged something out of this season, even though at this point maybe an NCAA tournament bid has kind of slid by, but still the team has 7-2 in the last 9 games, and it's still been quite a nice run.
Sure has. I think our biggest problem, I guess, or biggest factor that hurt us, I think, is playing some of the non-conference games that we had. I think that the level of competition really wasn't at the conference level, and I think that we sort of had a rude awakening in the beginning. And we've managed to come back and do pretty well, and I think we've been very competitive and very exciting to watch and things like that. But it's just taken us some time to get into the role of things, and I think you know, I'm real pleased with the last 9 games, and you know, we've made some mistakes here and there, but I really see our team progressing and making some positive steps.
Before we get into talking about Lewis, who was in town here last Thursday, excuse me, also we're going to have some video from the Lewis game coming up in our second segment, as well as some St. Joseph's clips, and we're going to talk about both those teams here in a few moments, but I want to put you on the spot a little bit now. Be it the last 9 games or throughout the season, I want to know what the Lady Dons, you know, maybe their greatest strength is as a team, and then to maybe back that up to maybe what is the biggest weakness that you see.
Well, I think our biggest strength is that we have the ability to score, and we've you know, averaged quite a few points every game. Our shooting percentage is around 47–48%, which is pretty good.
It ranks in the top 10 in the country as well.
And so I think part of that is based on our running game and the fact that we do have some really good outside shooters. And I think that's really been a strength for us. And I've, you know, when we're not shooting well, we're shooting in the 30s or low 40s, you know, we're struggling in some games. And I think that's, you know, you can look back at some of the key losses that we've had, and some of that has been because of our poor shooting percentage. Probably our biggest weakness, I would say a combination of 2 things. First of all, I'd say our rebounding hasn't been there. We tend not to box out. We try to, you know, jump with people, and we've got some kids that just don't have that jumping ability or don't have the timing. So rebounding has been a problem for us, and really trying to make the contact and go after the ball and be physical on the inside. But second of all, I think our defense, I think especially at the beginning of the conference, was a real negative aspect, and I think we've really made some great strides in that. But yet, I think down the road, I think we really want to try to push the defensive. We want to spread the defensive end up so that we're going full court defensively and pressing, and really making it difficult for our opponents, and try to be able to, you know, get the added bench depth so that we can do that.
So, I mean, you do press a lot, but with 3 girls that will play the better part of the 40 minutes, would you consider that a weakness, or do you think that those players, Jones, Recker, even Sheets, here recently, do you think that they're in the kind of shape that really that doesn't bother them?
Well, for us right now, when we've got those kids playing so many minutes, I think it just really takes away from us having the ability to extend, you know, full court and to do it for an extended period of time. I'd ideally like to be able to use that 20 plus minutes a game, or even more, depending on the kinds of kids that we can get in the following year or two. just to have the physical stamina to go, let alone to go 40 minutes a game, but to do that twice a week, and at this time of year it gets just really, you know, if you get an injury or you have something that's chronic, it just keeps building and building, and I think, you know, we have to be real careful with the injuries, and, you know, I think I think maybe in the St. Joe's game we ran out of gas, we started making some mental errors in the last couple minutes, and I think that, you know, I think that has something to do with, you know, maybe why we lost that game.
Well, we're going to be talking about St. Joe's. We may not even get to that game till the second segment. Again, we're going to have some video for you, but let's back up to last Thursday night, game that folks were able to see right here on Channel 6. You really kind of handled Lewis, and I think probably the team expected to, considering the first game. But the final was 95-66, and it was a good performance. And but shooting-wise, you know, 48%. On the game, it almost seemed like some people were trying to go out, have some fun, try some new things, and it was just kind of a good all-around night to where nobody really stood out, had the spectacular game or anything, but really it was a nice team effort, and everybody seemed like showed up and had a good time that night.
Yeah, we started out a little slow in the beginning of the game, but as we got into it a little bit more, and especially in the second half, we really kicked it up. But the real, I guess, important thing for me out of that game was to see how many kids we could play, and we did have a chance to play everybody. Mandisha Holmes, she twisted her ankle a day before and was having a little problem with it, so she didn't really get the minutes. But pretty much everybody, you know, was in double figures as far as time, and you know, the one thing I thought that was a real surprise was Amy Ross got 10 rebounds. She still hasn't got the ability to take and convert on the offensive end yet. She's not strong enough physically, and so she got bumped around a little bit. But you know, I think as time goes, I think maybe it could develop, and it's just a matter of hitting the weights a little harder during the summer.
Amy Ross is a freshman out of Elkhart, and to her defense on maybe not being in quite the physical shape, she's been injured you know, most of the season, and so she's just come back and decided not to take a redshirt year, and you let her in there and she had 10 rebounds, 2 points, you hit a couple free throws, but she was a nice surprise, and that is the kind of game that, you know, you need to showcase those kind of players to give them the confidence for the future.
Right, and I don't, you know, like, you know, people are coming up to me after the game and going, well, I really thought you guys were going to hit 100, and you know, yeah, it's nice to hit 100, but the one thing, too, that you don't want to do is you don't want to rub it into another team's face, you know, by leaving your starters out there. And if we're hitting 100 and we're not pressing, you know, that says a lot for our team. And, you know, I'm just glad that we had the opportunity to play them again so that everybody can get the experience.
Okay, Coach, maybe we'll finish up talking a little bit about the Lewis game, get some high scores, and then we're also going to talk about the St. Joseph's matchup, which was last Saturday night, also here on Channel 6. Stay tuned. We got some clips coming up for you. We'll be right back with the second segment right after this timeout.
The college basketball season is underway for 1994-95, and the Great Lakes Valley Conference has been rated by some as the toughest of the NCAA Division II conferences. Join Coach Andy Piazza and me, Matt DeLong, to get a closer look at the IPFW team and this year's competition. First-year IPFW women's basketball coach Pam Bowden is enjoying a fine preseason after coming to IPFW from the University of Alaska Anchorage. She has inherited a club which returns no seniors but still enjoys one of the top ratings in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. We want you to tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 to find out more information about the IPFW women's basketball team all season long.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and Coach, we were just talking about Lewis University prior to that last break. And again, it was a 95-66 win. You're playing the team that is at the bottom of the conference, but there were still some very positive things that came out in the game.
Yeah, I saw some real good things, like we mentioned before with Amy Ross, and we had several kids in double figures. Almost everybody scored. Andisha was the only one that didn't, and she only got to play about a minute. She was hobbling pretty bad, so we ended up taking her out. But everybody got a chance to play, and I think they got some good minutes under their belt. So, I'm hoping that, if we come down the next couple games and we need to be able to use some people, then they can step up and do what they need to do.
Leading the way for the Lady Dons was Lindy Jones. She had another pretty well-rounded game, and she actually did start off very slow and then kind of picked things up. But she led IPFW with 21 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. So it was still a good all-around night for our. And we'll try to get her an All-American, and we'll wait and see what happens. But certainly one of the top junior prospects in the country this year. Also in double figures for IPFW, Wendy Recker had 16. Dottie Porch also had 16, and Dottie had a great game with 11 rebounds.
Yeah, she had
lead
double-doubles.
IPFW.
Yeah, she, I think since she's been starting, she's, I think, sort of upped her level of play, and she's done some real nice things in the last couple games, and I'm real impressed with that. And, I hope with Tara's situation, I hope that she's able to keep, up with it mentally and can do the things that she needs to do. And, she's sort of last 2 games sort of been down a little bit, and I know her shoulder's been bothering her. She strained it a little bit, and so that's sort of throwing her shot off. But I think she should be back in the swing of things coming up.
Okay, Coach, I think we got a clip here from the Lewis game, and you selected actually a defensive stand, and obviously giving up only 66 points, defense played a pretty big part in this game for IPFW.
Right. In this play, it just gives just a general overview of us playing defense, and Dottie does a good job boxing out here, getting the board. She kicks it out to Wendy, and we look up the court, hit Lindy. She hits him with a skip pass, and Barb Derry scores. That's what we need, our kids being unselfish and passing the ball, and, really, looking to play team ball.
Well, the next game of the week was St. Joseph's, and if there was ever a heartbreaker, this would be it. Really, you led pretty much the whole way, Coach, and then to St. Joe's credit, they never gave up.
No.
And that's certainly not saying that your team gave up either, but they had that Lori Hissong, and really came down. It was a shootout between Hissong and Lindy Jones, and they shoot 1 of 9 from three-point land in the game, and that one puts them ahead for good right as the game was coming to an end. I believe it was probably under 30 seconds in the game, and Hissong hit it, and just a tough loss.
Yeah, it sure was. I was disappointed with a couple things. One, I thought that we didn't handle the pressure at the end of the game very well. We made a couple mental errors in what we should or shouldn't have done. I also thought that we just gave Hissong way too many points, throughout the whole game. And, some of it she got posting up against some of our guards down low, and some she got from the outside. And I think part of our problem, especially like in the first half, which we'll see with one of our clips, is we just keep getting stuck behind defensively, and that just really killed us in the first half with her.
Well, and turnovers were also a big part of this game. Both teams, 24 turnovers for your Lady Dons, and St. Joseph's had 21 turnovers. So that seemed, though, that was almost a tribute to the defensive intensity in this game, because it was very intense. And,
it was.
And the fact that the final score was 84-81, that shows you the offensive skill that was also involved, but clearly this was a defensive struggle.
It sure was a battle. It was a very, very physical game, just from start to finish. And, when we're only using about, 6, 7 kids pretty regular, it tends to, I think, wear on you when you're playing that type of game. And I think part of our mental breakdown was because of the physicalness. And, we had a couple... just a couple mental errors, and I think that led towards it. And I don't really want to use that as an excuse, but I think that, us being young and a new, staff and new, type of game that we're playing, I think just a lot of factors in that.
Well, I think we got some clips from the St. Joseph's game. Of course, IPFW went out, led this one 41-35 at halftime. It was a tight game the whole way. I think 6 points Did get up to 10 points, so here we have some action now. It did get up to 10 points at one juncture in the second half.
Yeah, Dottie gets a steal, and she makes a really nice fake and hands off to Barb Derry. And, you know, just once again showing us not being selfish, and, you know, Dottie was doing a good job out in the wing there to get that steal, and we just need to, I guess, up our pressure on the perimeter a little bit more, and I think we'll get a little bit more of that down the road.
Hillsong finished this game with 34 points, 7 of 7 from the line for her, and Lindy finished with 28 points, had 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and as a team, though, IPFW 14 of 21 from the free throw line.
Right.
And that really came to kind of bite you at the end right there.
Yeah, it sure did. I think if I recall right that we missed 3 1-on-1s in the last minute and a half. And, you know, we've had some really good games. We've had some real questionable games as far as free throw shooting. And we've just got to develop the mental toughness to be able to do that, you know, every time and be shooting, you know, hopefully in the 80s. So right now, I was joking with Lindy yesterday. I said, you know, maybe we need to, you know, run a set of lines for every missed one during key situations, and you know, maybe that's what we have to go to.
We're going to try to get one more clip in here, the St. Joseph's game, Coach. Maybe you could take us through this. I'm not
they
real
get
sure
the
where
ball
this is at.
here, and they're pushing it up the court. They're going to run what I call a 4-out, 1-in. They're going to have 4 players out in the perimeter, and they're posting up. And this is what really hurt us. We got Leah down low, and she just can't get around. And you know, that's what they did to us the whole first half. And our guards just could not front them. And our defense is set that we front in the low post, and we have our weak side come across and help. But if we have both of our players behind, it just causes too much problems, and we're just not getting enough pressure on the ball in the low post.
You know, St. Joe's was a team that beat you by 20 points the first game, and it was an ugly game the first time, but this time it seemed like the Lady Dons were still able to come back, and really we're pretty much in control the whole way.
Yeah, we did. We changed up on a few things defensively, and we did a lot, I think a lot of positive things adjusting to what they do.
Okay, well, we're going to take one more break and be back with our final segment. We're going to talk about the dreaded trip to Southern Indiana, Kentucky Wesleyan when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and Coach, getting into one of the final weekends, only 2 weeks of basketball left in the season. We talked about earlier the chances of an NCAA tournament appearance now are probably gone. So what you play for now is a lot of pride. And you have a trip ahead of you where the pride factor is really going to come out, and that is Southern Indiana and Kentucky Wesleyan this weekend. And first of all, on Thursday, you've got Southern Indiana. And that team is currently ranked number 17 in the country. It started with they started off, I believe, 15, 16, and 0, and they've had some trouble since then, but we were part of that trouble. And if they were ever going to be motivated for somebody, it's going to be the Lady Dons. It was a hard-fought 104-94 win over Southern when they were ranked number 3 in the country here in Fort Wayne, and now it's time to go down to their territory. And it's just it's one thing for the players to know that maybe the tournament is not there, but it's also got to be nice as a coach to be able to prepare for a team such as Southern Indiana to get that motivation back?
Well, I think a real key for us is, just to finish as best we can. But I think, Southern Indiana is definitely going to be out for us, and this is not going to be an easy trip. So I think the mental side of what we need to do is really important, and to be focused. And I think it's going to help that we're getting down a day early, so that we're not as rushed when we get to the site and things like that. But, I hear Kentucky Wesleyan is no pleasant place to play either. So, I expect both games to be very competitive and very intense. So I'm hoping that, we can just do what we need to do and take care of business.
This is, I think sometimes we forget that this is your first trip on the traveling circuit here in the GLVC. And how would you size it up? I mean, everybody talks about the GLVC, some of the great arenas and whatnot, and you will see two great ones this weekend, but is the GLVC everything that it's cracked up to be?
Well, I can't speak for the men's side of it, but I know the women's side definitely has some teams that are really very competitive and a lot tougher than maybe what I thought maybe a couple of them were. I think there was a couple surprises. I think even other coaches in the conference have seen some surprises, especially with like a Southern Indiana. You expect the Northern Kentuckys and the Bellarmins and teams like that to be good year after year, but I'll tell you, I think Indianapolis has done a great job, and I think USI has done a great job. We know St. Joe's has their reputation of being good year in and year out, so I think the conference is getting stronger and stronger, and hopefully it's not just taking 2 to the tournament, it's taking 3 and 4, because we are building that conference tradition.
Okay, Coach, so Southern Indiana on Thursday and Kentucky Wesleyan Saturday. It's going to be a tough weekend, but of course the question for those of us that did see that thrilling 10-point victory here at IPFW, where, as a matter of fact, I mean, people may have wanted to call it an upset. It may or may not have been, because Southern Indiana has fallen to, they're 10-4 in the conference. Very human. They started off unbelievable, and they were blowing people out. But once that came down, but I think what some people need to realize is the fact that with about 7-8 minutes to go in the game, Jenny Newhart fouls out.
Yep.
And about five minutes to go, then Tara Mazzillo fouls out. And you've got somebody, a scoring machine, and Leanne Freeland down there. And still, you were able to have some of those bench players come in the game. Mandisha Holmes, for one. And there were some others that came in and really, and it was also the game where you were able to get some great play out of Leah Sheets, where she really stepped out and has been in the starting lineup ever since. But to not sell your team short, they were actually short-handed and still pulled away and won by 10.
Yeah, it just got to a point where we just let Freeland have whatever she wanted in the inside. And Leah Sheets, is good of a defensive player that she is. She just doesn't have the size, I think, to really match up with Freeland. And so we just really tried to close off the rest of their players. And at that point of the game, we could afford to do that because we were doing well enough for the line and holding our own, going back and forth. So we were just trading baskets basically. And so at that point of the game, I think it really wasn't as big of a concern to give her the extra points she was getting. So
So actually what it came down to was you were trading 2-pointer layups for Southern Indiana for a series of 4 3-pointers from Lindy Jones that really opened this thing up at the end of the game. But anyway, that's going to be a tight game. We got to move on to Kentucky Wesleyan. Here's a team that can scare you, because they can beat anybody and they can be beaten by anybody, and you got to hate to play teams like that.
Well, the thing about this conference is that Northern Kentucky falls short. I think it was against Kentucky State at the buzzer in overtime, and it's a kind of conference where anybody can knock off anybody at any given time. So I mean, you can't sell anybody short. You may have a home court advantage, but on the road, I'll tell you that it's tough to play, and you can't take anybody lightly in this conference, because as soon as you do, you're going to lose a game.
Kentucky Wesleyan comes in at 10-13. They're right behind you in the conference standings at 5-9, so you're pretty solid as far as where you're going to finish in the conference. It looks like probably about a 6th place finish, and that's given you a lot to build on, though.
Well, I'm hoping that we can really take and learn some things from this season and really be positive and do the things that we need in the off season to prepare ourselves for next year. It's really in the kids' hands to see what they want to do with the summer and how bad they want to work for next year and how bad they want to win. And to be able to put that in perspective and saying if we want to win the conference, then we have to do X things to do that. And that starts with working out in the summer and, you know, working on our weaknesses and taking care of, you know, the learning things during the off season and summer. And so then when we get into October, we're ready to go and we're ready to play and we're in shape.
Okay. We'll talk more about about Southern Indiana and Kentucky Wesleyan, of course, next week, and we'll recap that. But real quick, you talked about tournament preparation. We're running out of time, but preparation anyway, as far as the overall preparation for the GLVC and your preseason. Have you been able to schedule any games that you feel prepare you better when you do finally get to conference for next year?
We're going to play Edinburgh at their place, and I think they've also tied in a game with Shippensburg, which is, they're two good schools out of the Pennsylvania Conference. And you know, we sort of struggled a little bit with some of the scheduling because we came in late, so we're going to really get on top of that early next year and see if the following year we can get some real good competition, maybe get to North Dakota State's tournament.
Okay, Pam, thanks a lot. Good luck this weekend. Have a good time on your trip. I know IPFW will be leaving. Actually, they'll be in Northern Kentucky, actually, when you see this program, so good luck to you.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip back.
All right.
All right, for Coach Pam Bowden, I'm your host, Matt DeLong. Wishing you a good day, a nice evening. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you again next week.